Hello, my name is Jacqueline Dominguez. Today I'll be presenting for my POL for U.S. History. We had to analyze a quote that our teacher gave us, which states, "The bird of our country is a debilitated chicken, disguised in early feathers. We have never been a nation. We are only an aggregate of communities, ready to fall apart at a first serious shock." So I'll be analyzing two pivotal events and how they relate to this quote. So the first event that I chose was the Boston Vigilance Committee. So the Boston Vigilance Committee was a law that was passed in the southern states in 1850. This was led to the cause of Charles Turner Torrey, who helped escape many slaves, almost 100 slaves. This quote stated that southern states, especially the owners, slave owners, would allow themselves and their families to capture slaves that were part of the Northern Territory or were escaping from their homes as well. So a lot of people were against this law, especially a group of Bostonians who, reacted to this law and wanted to prevent, a lot of effects that was like example of kidnappings and slave treatings, as well as many really issue things. They wanted to protect the anti-slaves and fugitive slave owners. This allowed a lot of people, especially blacks and whites, to form against this law, which allowed many men to organize a lot of organizations as well as women. Women were allowed to organize, the organizations as well with their husbands, and this led to a lot of hatred and a lot of issues with this law. So now I'll be talking about the second event, which was John Brown and Rapids on Harper Ferry. So who was John Brown? So John Brown was a man who is an abolitionist person who was against slavery. He was actually a radical abolitionist. He actually wanted Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman to join his army, but they both didn't want to, and so they didn't accept it. So what he did was he was so against slavery that he made a revolt in 1859. He went to this engine house near I think Maryland, and he went to held hostage, who was also including George Washington's great-great-grandnephew. This also caused war, which caused it caused war, and it caused big damage that many people saw what he did, especially this one person who wanted to take off his ears just because of this damage that he made, which then was against to revolt treason, and he was guilty about it. Well, he was guilty about it, and as well, many of his soldiers, including two of his children, were killed. So then he was executed, and someone actually stated, an historian named Ed Bears, he stated, "He became the single most important factor, in my opinion, in bringing in the war." So as you could tell, a lot of people did like what he did, and a lot of people were a lot of people did like him and agreed to him to being one of him as well. So these two relate to the quote because you could tell that both were fugitive people that were against slavery, and they wanted to let society know that they wanted to hear their voices, which John Brown did, and as well as the Boston Vigilance community people did as well. That's why it states the communities are ready to fall apart at first serious shock, which meant that they thought they did the right thing, but realized they did the wrong thing.